Hi everyone, Chrissy here and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be participating in the Advent Calendar Extravaganza. It is day 18, so if you have missed out so far, head on back and make sure you check it out from day one because there's all kinds of giveaways and sponsors every day. Today's sponsor is Lawn Fawn, so you can see that cute little card I showed at the beginning. I am just going to give you a quick little overview of how I made it. I sped up the video here to make it a little bit faster. So I grabbed the Joy to the Woods stamp set and I just decided that I was going to heat emboss it. So before I inked it up, I just used a little bit of chalk, added it onto my watercolor paper. I do this just so the extra embossing powder doesn't stick. It will only stay to the inked image then. If not, you've probably had this happen. You've got like little specks all over the place and then they show up. It's really noticeable if you use like a black or darker color. Not as noticeable on white, but I am going to be adding a bunch of color in the background. So I want to make sure that everything is just staying in that particular stamped area. So heat embossed it with some white embossing powder. And now I have my non-stick craft mat. This is the Ken Oliver's Best Ever Craft Mat. If you don't have a non-stick crafting surface, you can certainly use an acrylic block and kind of do the opposite of what I'm doing. I'm actually putting some distressing down, spraying with water, and then putting the card on top of it. You can always do that on a smaller scale in certain areas, or maybe even try to kind of do the opposite where you put it on the ink and then push it on the card. I don't know if that would work. I haven't tried it, but it probably would. You can also probably use like wax paper, or if you save some of the acrylic from your stamp sets, you could lay that down and do it that way. And that way you have the non-stick surface. So I just kind of went a few times, inked, sprayed, used the heat gun to dry it, re-ink, sprayed, lather, rinse, repeat, whatever you want to say. The distressings that I'm using are peacock feathers, picked raspberry, squeezed lemonade, and seedless preserves. You can use any colors you want. I just thought these would be kind of fun. I kind of love these bright rainbowy colors. And I knew that I wanted that to really pop out of the background because then everything else I'd be using, all the dyes were going to be white. So I definitely wanted that big contrast with like the plain white dyes, the white sentiment with like a nice bright background. And after I did all that, I kind of felt like the sentiment wasn't popping out enough. So I just put down the peacock feathers again, add a little water, and this time I took a paintbrush so I could control it a little bit better and just added some of it in, and then I let it dry. So now I'm using some Dilutions Vibrant Turquoise, and I'm just flicking it on. You can see that was super fast. You can spray it if you want. This just comes out really, really strong. So for this particular card, I only wanted those little splatters. You could also use a paintbrush too if you feel like you need a little more control instead of just flicking it. So now I'm kind of grabbing all my dyes. Like I said, Lawn Fawn's a sponsor today, so because of that, I tried to stick with Lawn Fawn products as much as I could. So I have the Stitch Hillside Borders and the Stitch Snowflakes, and I'm just going to kind of lay them down, figure out exactly what I want to do here, because I wasn't really sure. I love all of these dyes, so I wasn't really sure which border I wanted to use. So what I like to do lots of times is before I die cut and before I stamp, I kind of lay them out onto my card panel before I go ahead and actually stamp or before I go ahead and actually die cut, so you can just kind of like visually see what it looks like. So I just went ahead with some plain white cardstock and I die cut the Stitched Hillside Border, the one little snowdrift, and then I also die cut some snowflakes. And they popped right out, no problem whatsoever. If you have issues, like you can see this one, I said no problem whatsoever, and then one of them didn't pop out right. You can always use one of these. This is a tool-in-one. There's several different types out there. You can use a paper piercer. That's what I used to do before I had one of those. You can try to like drop it down and see if that comes out. Sometimes that loosens it. There's several different ways to get your dies out. They have little holes in them now that make it super easy. So what I like to do too is I generally try to make things bigger. Like you could see the snow, I left it larger and then I trimmed it afterwards. That way I have a nice clean edge. Otherwise, sometimes stuff is cut a little bit too short and then stuff shows through. So that color would have shown through had I cut it a little bit too short. So I like to adhere it first and then trim it after. So for the snowflakes, because they're pretty intricate, I used my Xyron sticker maker and I just ran it through the little Xyron. And now you can see just with my quick stick, I kind of just pushed it down. I just wanted to make sure that all that adhesive actually got on the snowflake. Sometimes if you don't go around the edges, it kind of pulls up and gets on the front, or it doesn't stick properly. So I just wanted to make sure that it actually got on there. So then I just went ahead and I adhered them down. So now I'm going to make my card base, and I just have a 5.5 by 8.5 sheet of paper, and I'm going to score it at the 4 1/4, so that makes a standard A2 sized card. And this is going to be top folding. You can see I just went ahead and I just adhered it using a tape runner. So I just grabbed the panel that we worked on and just adhered it with some super strong adhesive to my card base that I created. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add just a little bit of shimmer. You can use any type of shimmer brush. This particular one is the Spectrum Noir Sparkle Glitter Pen. This is the crystal clear, so it's nice and clear. All you get is just a glittery effect. And I'm just adding it to the snowflakes and then just the very, very top of that die right above where the stitching is. And then to finish everything off, I decided that I wanted to add a few little sequins in. Initially, I wasn't going to because I felt like it was going to kind of make it too busy. But then once I just had the snowflakes on there, I felt like I really needed to add one other thing. And so that's usually like baker's twine or rhinestones or sequins. And I opted for sequins. I just did kind of like whitish gray ones there. Not too obvious. They don't take away from the snowflakes. They don't take away from the fun colors or anything like that. And I'm just using some clear collal glue. This dries perfectly clear, so if you screw up, nobody sees it. And there is the finished card. I hope you enjoyed this, and make sure you hop around in our extravaganza. Thanks!